committee commission for putting this together. I put on a forum last week dealing with gentrification. Gentrification is very real. Don't let anybody fool you on that. Right. And Amber and Karan and Kyle reached out to me, and Amber and Karan were part of my panel. So I'm not going to talk too much on what gentrification is, because we've already addressed that already last week, and we'll be hosting that again. However, Ypsilanti's model is pride, diversity, and heritage. Pride, diversity, and heritage. And we're willing to kick out our heritage to compensate for diversity. Right? So what we're willing to do is give up our history to accommodate a lot of people, to make them feel comfortable. I'm not willing to do that. Okay? Yes, we are underserved and underrepresented in this community. Totally misrepresented. Let me say that. But don't think for a minute that I don't support my council persons, particularly Mayor Pro Tem Nicole Brown and former Mayor Pro Tem Lois Richardson. If we were back in city council chambers, you would see sitting right behind council person's head, there's a sign that says Black Lives Matter. Yeah. If Black Lives Matter, council, you would take another look at what's going to take place down at the proposed International Village. And we understand why you did not want to talk about affordable housing and only want to talk about village, because a lot of people who are going to be affected are the people that you don't care nothing about. And those are the renters out here. Okay? Now, I want to share something to you a little bit about the ugly side of rental. When Ypsilanti was down so low, we rented our house out to anybody and everybody was there. Okay? Now, in Ypsilanti, which is a city of approximately 4 square miles, right? There are 346 registered sex offenders. Now, I'm using this demographic because it is recorded, right? There's 346 registered.
10 times the national average.
Thank you.
So important.
Thank you. A ratio of 57-1. Now, if I use a size that is similar in population of Inkster, which is 25,000 citizens of 6.25 square miles, there's only 134 registered sex offenders. A ratio of 186-1. Okay? Now, if we take a look at a city like Pinckney, which has only 24 registered sex offenders, Chelsea has only 15. Dexter, 12. Now dig this here.
What are their populations?
Ann Arbor has 113,934 citizens, but they have only 87 registered sex offenders. Where did they come from? They came from Ann Arbor to here.
Next up we have, thank you, Ms. Forward. The applicant is Nathaniel Romero, and then Adam Beasley after that.
Hello. I live at 317 South Street. I will be a homeowner within a few years, which I'm grateful for. I live in a small neighborhood, a little pocket south of Michigan Avenue. Very working class neighborhood. I love my neighborhood. I sit in my front yard. I talk to people in the community. You may also know me as the owner of Beezy's Cafe.
Yeah!
Thank you. So I'm up here, and I'm saying is like, I think a first or second wave gentrifier. I'm complicit in this. I am a white person. I am complicit in white supremacy. I am complicit in a whole bunch of horrible things. I think that Ypsilanti has the imagination and has the dedication to do things differently. And if we're going to stand here, we're going to sit in this meeting, we're going to have these conversations, and we're not going to use our imagination, much less listen to the people in our community, not the ones who have access to every meeting, not the ones who can access the minutes online, but the people that are in your front yard, people walking down your streets. When was the last time you talked to them? So there's that, all right? So, one of the things I've seen a lot online and what I've heard through this conversation is that this keeps coming back to Beth Boucher, and I want to actually give her credit for what she means in the context of saying that Ypsilanti carries much of the affordable housing burden. Quinn is absolutely right in saying that when those words come out, that hurts. That hurts. Our language is so important. The way we use it, the way we choose to play that out in our community. And what I think Beth is saying, what Councilperson Beth Fisher is saying, is that We do a lot. IPSI already does a lot, and other communities should step it up. They should, but they're not. And we can. We could be a mecca for affordable housing. We could be a mecca for working class people. We could be a mecca for racial equality, for justice, for all. All
Then
right?
set the example.
One of the things that we can do is mitigate the trajectory of the course of gentrification, and that is what this meeting is for. Thank you.
On deck is Adam Beasley and then Isaac Levine.
Hey, I'm Nathaniel Romero. Thank you. I want to specifically thank the HRC, particularly Amber Fellows, Karan Gaines, and Kyle Hunter. Thank you so much for all the work that you have put into doing this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I would also like to thank Councilmember Richardson, Councilmember Murdoch, Mayor Pro Tem Brown, and Councilmember Brian Robb. They were the council members who voted to have this meeting. And the rest of the council members decided that they would rather not have this meeting than to have affordability be a part of that discussion. So I want you all to remember that. But overall, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude with everything that all of y'all are saying. Amber, you killed it. You really broke it down in a way that we need to. I want to thank Karan for getting people out, for speaking truth at the gentrification panel along with Amber. I want to thank Brian Foley for having that panel. I want to thank Kyle Hunter for bringing people out. I want to thank Isaac Levine. I want to thank Quinn for talking. I want to thank everybody. So overwhelmed with gratitude. I'm here, I'm speaking on behalf of a friend who cannot make it today. She has been visiting some people in Grand Rapids, and or her family in Grand Rapids, and she can't make it down because she suffers from chronic pain. And the past couple nights she has been having some extreme pain. And I talked with her last week, and she told me her story about how she makes $10,000 a year, and 75% of her income is spent on rent. She spent 6 months looking for a place. A good portion of that, she was homeless. And after 6 months, she found a place where she can spend 75% of her income on rent. She said that she had $25 to her name to last her for 2 weeks. This is real. This is IPSI real. This is what's going on in our community. She used to live on North Adams Street. And when I walk down on North Adams Street right now, that looks like Gentrifier Row right now. And there is
lifelong residents.
I'm not talking to you. But yeah, I would point out the demographics of the people who are saying that gentrification is not happening, including the person who just spoke to me. I would like to bring that up. Thank you very much. But one thing about North Adams is I'm seeing a whole bunch of signs that say Wimby, welcome in my backyard. Why is not my friend who is disabled with Lyme disease able to stay on that street? It's not cool. I'm not for it. And I do not appreciate it when the people who live in the whitest, most affluent neighborhoods talk down to people who express fear about having this. Look at where you live, look at your backyard, and get to know your neighbors.
Followed by Isaac Levine and then Michael Bovary.
Adam Beasley, 409 North Adams. Ypsilanti, Michigan, 4897. So a lot going on. Nobody can hear you. Can you hear me now? Better. All right. So a lot going on here. First and foremost, this is amazing. This kind of community engagement is exactly why I love this city and why I'm willing to work my butt off for it. You know, a lot of wonderful points being made here. Gentrification, affordability, these are at the forefront of our minds right now, and they should be. But the other thing that's at the forefront of our mind right now is this 30-acre deserted plot of land that we've been sitting on for almost 20 years now, just watching it waste away. I spent the last several years of my life making sure that it doesn't take the city down with it. And here we have an opportunity to do something positive with it. I see how people feel like it is a threat to them and to their livelihood and to their homes. But the logic isn't there. The past hasn't borne that out, and there is so much more opportunity and so much more appropriate places to be spending this energy that I look forward to those opportunities, but I have to give my support to the International Village, to council, and to all the work that goes into it. The last quick point I'd like to make is just that, in this age where we don't have good formal news networks, the onus falls on the city, council members especially, but staff as well, to really make sure that we are proactive in getting, or they are proactive in getting information like this out into the community. I think there's a lot of ill will and a lot of misunderstanding right now, just by dint of the fact that the information isn't out there, and it's not anybody's fault except for the situation we're in. So I urge council and staff to do everything in your ability to get the word out to your constituents and to our city at large. And I encourage all of you to help your friends, your neighbors, and everybody get involved, be informed, be active, and work hard. We have an amazing city. Let's step up and do what it takes to keep it MC real. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is next on deck is Michael Bodery and then Shane McCarland.
Hello, my name is Isaac Levine. I'm the incidental AV person of this meeting. The city didn't provide a sound system, and I don't know how it's going to work, so we have a city council microphone now, so it's good so we can hear city council loud and clear. That's great. So I brought that mic on. So I'm here to talk about the International Village development, but I'm also going to talk about some other stuff. The United States elected a president last year that has a background in real estate development. Ypsilanti has in recent years elected a mayor and city council that have a background, an economic background, also from real estate development. The United States has a president who develops hotels in other countries and attempts to deport less privileged residents who were born in this country outside of it. Ypsilanti has leaders who develop apartments for wealthy outsiders in their own city while failing to provide a cut of that capital to those less privileged folks who were born here, and effectively cutting them loose to the city streets and perhaps loose to Michigan's quite substantial private prison system. Do you see the parallel I'm drawing? I believe that the vocal bigotry of a national fascistic, pseudo-conservative leader is being replicated in the economic bigotry of local liberal Democrat leaders. Replace the term white supremacy with gentrification and you might understand what I'm saying. To those of you that argue that gentrifying, upclassing, and raising the values of your homes is not a threat to diversity, I'd like to summon your attention towards the statistic. The average median white family has 13 times the wealth of the median black family in the United States. So can you guess the color of skin of who is going to be living above Depot Town, on the new development on the Thompson block, 220 North Adams when that comes around? Who will be more likely to be able to buy a house in a neighborhood they did not even grow up in? This isn't an issue with aesthetics or a case against development outright. This is a case against a city council that has attempted to repress a public input period on the sale of the largest parcel of publicly owned land, but they attempted to push through, again, with no public input period, until the HRC fought for it, with no community benefits agreement written for low-income residents, in a time where there are thousands of people in town struggling to pay their rent in the neighborhoods they grew up in. This is Ypsi's largest piece of public land. If you do not set a precedent for demanding low-income housing from our new aristocratic bedfellows now, when will you? Ypsilanti City Council promises its low-income residents who are not seniors that will think about them sometime. By current standards, they will be having sustainability meetings about low-income developments in our next lives before taking action. Luckily, they have a chance to take action right now. Mayor, City Council members, I advocate that you vote no or abstain from voting on this issue until a real community benefits agreement, which includes low-income housing, is written and signed. Because once that purchase agreement is through, these developers have no accountability to the city to do anything that anyone said at this meeting or anything the city asked from it. The mayor mentioned in a city council meeting in which there was an affordability discussion that due to library law, that many people in Ann Arbor City Council lost their seats. If you vote yes on this, I'll do everything in my power to make sure you lose your seats. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Council, for having this open forum for us. I have to start out by saying that I disagree with the characterizations of certain speakers that have charged that you are not responsive to the needs of the poorer community. I know from experience, I've watched council meetings where those concerns are brought up from Ward 1 or from Ward 2 or from Ward 3. Regardless of where you're from, I have watched council try to be as responsible as responsive as they can be towards the needs of the poor people in this town. That's just not true, and it's an unfair characterization. As far as the issue of rent control, I can't agree with rent control. I'm sure that Mr. Barnes, who was sitting over here just a few minutes ago, Mr. Beal, the Mauer family, and all of the people that own a lot of property in town are not just jacking up your rents to become rich people. Please, give me a chance to speak. Okay? You can get your 3 minutes too. Don't. I'm sure that they're just trying to cover rising costs too. Everything goes up. Heat goes up. Water goes up. Everything goes up. I've watched it happen. They're not raking in extra money. So, as far as International Village goes, it's an outstanding way to further diversify our community. We will be able to welcome people from other countries that desire to gain education and cultural exchange with us. Many may desire to stay and become permanent residents, maybe here in the city, maybe in the township, maybe they'll move to Ann Arbor after they complete their times here. Whatever, we welcome more people. Diversity is not a bad idea, and trying to cut Asian people out that want to come and live here is not a good idea. The environmental cleanup is still needed, and we will still need this development very much to help us become MDEQ compliant. That's not going to happen on its own. The ongoing revenue to the city will help us to pay off Water Street debt much sooner. This will help lower taxes and bring both sides together that were so vastly divided in the recent ballot that we had. We in the city and the township contain 49% of the low-income, affordable housing within the entire county. Obviously, we're already doing our share. Upgrades in housing in Ward 1 on Harriet Street that I've watched happen in the recent times. And new things that are happening are showing that they're making the right.
Thank you, Mr. Rotary.
Thank you.
On deck is Brett Luger and then Katie Clark.
Hi, my name is Shane McFarland. I live at 12 North Wallace Boulevard. I am a homeowner, and I am here to encourage my fellow homeowners in Ward 2 to be extremely skeptical of the International Village development. I'm here in solidarity with the renting community. I'm actually also a landlord, a small-time landlord, because I live in a duplex. I've seen the demand for an increased rent just by putting feelers out there just to see if people would pay more for the same apartment. And they were willing to pay more, up to 50% more. All of these people were from Ann Arbor and very wealthy. So that's just something. The other thing is I would continue, I would, okay, testing, 1, 2. All right, so I heard a little bit about landlords, and so it's interesting because up until a few years ago, I wanted to be a landlord, and then I grew a conscience, And so now I'm currently trying to exit that position, you know, that's something that you know, when you really look down at the finances of it, and you realize, oh yes, when you buy a house that's foreclosed, you are doing a wealth exchange from the person that it was foreclosed upon, and that's been demonstrated to have been true throughout the city, specifically in black neighborhoods throughout the city, where most of the new landlords are, you know, they're probably white too, is the other thing. So as far as the EB-5 visa program, I mean, we got a lot of liberals here, supposedly, and that program is pretty messed up. It's basically a fast track for rich people to get a green card so that they can go, so basically they can, buy property in the U.S., probably so they can buy like some property in Martha's Vineyard and be neighbors with Donald Trump, you know? I mean, we're talking about a program that just engenders the inequality that exists already in the world, and those rich people that were going to take their money, they probably exploited people in their own country to get rich too. So like we can't ethically accept, you know, their money and ignore the plight of our fellow workers and working poor people in other countries. So since I do have a history with capitalism, I wanted to try to make the capitalist appeal as well, which is the property we're talking about is worth a lot of money. The cleanup costs are a capital expenditure that pale in comparison to what the property could be worth in the long run. We don't need to subsidize millionaires, and we're suckers if we do. So I ask you, Ypsilanti, are we suckers? Yeah! No. Hopefully not. Also, the development is not pro-diversity if it's anti-black.
Thank you.
Thank you, HRC, for having this tonight. I'm Brett Zuner. I serve on the Sustainability Commission here in Ypsilanti, and I'm a grad student at U of M, and I live in Ypsilanti on the 300 block of Oak Street. So, essentially, I want to first say that we are hosting sustainability planning meetings that I hope you all come to, because we're trying to develop a framework, like a decision-making tool, so that council can use that and go through boxes kind of to check and see, so if there's a development, does it affect affordable housing, and that would make it not sustainable. So come to those meetings. We have one this Thursday, 6:30 at the library. And I'm not here to discuss whether gentrification will or will not happen, because I forgot my crystal ball, but rather I'll discuss sustainability and the precautionary principle, because we do not know if this will have a ripple effect, and I have not seen any comprehensive studies in regard, but what the HRC showed us today is that Ypsi and its residents are vulnerable, and we should yield to the precautionary principle to protect the most vulnerable. And what I do see happening here, and correct me if I'm wrong, the urban planners in the room, is the privatization of public lands without broad community support for those lands. And the sustainability plan will be drafted with community response and feedback, so hopefully in the future we can move this pendulum in the right direction. But sustainability is not an ecological, environmentalist idea or just being green. It's about economic sustainability, social sustainability, it's cultural, it's community, it's about life in general. And this development may contribute to environmental sustainability through remediation, and it may boost the city's economic health. But if the development disenfranchises residents, displaces anybody, and does not respect the views and beliefs of the majority of citizens in Ypsilanti or those most vulnerable, then it is not sustainable development. And this is an issue where a public vote could be beneficial if voting was accessible and equitable. But that's probably beyond our means to address voting issues, but we just did vote to fund Water Street so we could decide where the future goes. And I do not believe that residents voted to fund Water Street so it could be sold to wealthy Chinese developers. I think we voted so that we could heed and make a sustainable choice in the future for sound development, because that is not what we did before. Something that would address social and cultural equity in our community while remaining cognizant of historical context. So we are living with this legacy contamination and the poor dealings at our Water Street, but making hasty decisions is what got us into this mess. And I believe Ypsilanti can afford to wait just a bit longer while we collect the millage to make solid, well-thought decisions that are sensitive and representative of the residents here. We should not be pandering to U.S. Congress deadlines for visa programs or pandering to the threats of pulling out of a purchase from Chinese developers. We do not answer to those people, we answer to the people in this room. We can do it all: economic development, affordable housing, and protecting environmental health. Why don't we suggest to push to have the International Village developers incorporate affordable housing? Why not mandate that the riverfront is public land or employ local citizens? If they oppose these measures, it may shed light on the intent of this development. And again, thank you for hosting this Thursday, 6:30 p.m., Ypsilanti Public Library. Please show up.
Hi everyone. I'm not used to talking into a microphone, so if I need to do something different, just shout. It seems to be working. My name is Katie Clark. I live at 430 South Adams Street. First, I just want to really thank Amber and Karan and Kyle for how y'all really laid it out and showed us what risks we're up against. That was very clear, very articulate. I'm mostly here just to echo what people are saying so that you know why I'm in this room and to reflect a few things back to council. So first thing I want to reflect is this meeting is obviously very necessary. This room is bursting with energy, and I really can't believe that y'all almost went to Beijing without hosting a public comment period. That looks so bad that you already have the tickets and haven't even asked the city. I'm also as excited as I am that the police chief might be out of our hair for 2 weeks, quite frankly, really unclear in his role in going along. The other thing I want to reflect is Momo brought up the issue of the indigenous burial grounds that have been documented to be found on the proposed development site on multiple occasions. In the little thing that I read on the internet, I saw this really briefly mentioned, and the way it was addressed was to say, if the developers find something, they'll stop. I don't believe that. I don't have any reason to believe that people that are investing a lot of money into a development are just going to throw that away and pause just because they find evidence of a population that historically is proof that we don't care about. So I think that needs to be addressed now. I think it's really inappropriate that this development is continuing, that any of the process is continuing without talking more about that. And then just to echo some of the other things that have been said, I know that for sure your name has been thrown around a couple times because we all heard what you said at previous council meetings about not wanting to talk about affordability and about considering housing insecure folks to be a burden on the county. So it sucks to hear from our council that the majority of the people in Ypsilanti, as delineated in the presentation that Amber gave, are not really being taken into consideration, that some council members don't want to talk about their needs. So what I want to reflect is that up until this meeting, what I've heard from council, generally speaking, is that y'all don't care about black people, you don't care about young people, you don't care about low-income people, you don't care about housing insecure people, and you don't care about indigenous people. So to bring it back again to what was laid out by the Human Relations Commission, the issue is not just whether or not there's affordable housing within International Village, there's also this broader concern about catering to the needs of the people that International Village would be attracting, regardless of whether or not there is an affordability component. So, what we know is that the city's majority renters, there's a lot of low-income people, and right now it looks like y'all up here are really ignoring the majority of Ypsilanti to their detriment.
Zach Fossler, you're next up. Yeah, you're up. And after Deva would be Kira Berlin.
Good evening. My name is Zach Fossler. I am the Executive Director of the Ypsilanti Housing Commission. You may be familiar with some of the work we've done over the last 5 years. We are the developer and owner of Hampton Crossing, which is an affordable housing complex, a beautiful affordable housing complex located at the gateway to Ypsilanti off I-94. We've recently done a full renovation of Deborah Strong Housing, which is 112 units of public housing. And now we're completing the development that everybody keeps mentioning, which is New Park Ridge off of Harriet and Armstrong. This site will obviously be a brand new site. We've demolished the old site, which was under-occupied in terrible condition. So the reason one other thing I want to mention is we also partnered with EMU to create a great resident services program for lifting people up out of poverty. It's actually very successful. It's available to all of our residents, the 342 units we own. And let me also mention 90% of our residents are Black. That being said, I've dedicated my life to serving the vulnerable populations you clearly care about so much. But I want to be very clear about something else. This city council has been incredibly supportive of these redevelopment activities, which have been the complete renovation or complete replacement of public housing within the city of Ypsilanti. This is where the most vulnerable people are living in Ypsilanti, and they have been completely supportive of it over the last 4 years that I've been working for the YHC. Moving on, Water Street is not the site for affordable housing. Council tried that. They supported low-income housing tax credit development proposed by Herman and Kittle. That development didn't happen. It couldn't happen. The site is too contaminated. Michigan wouldn't allow it. 90% of affordable housing development in this country is done through low-income housing tax credits. If it can't happen on that site, it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
The site's too contaminated. An affordable housing developer really just can't afford to make a deal work on that site. The city is struggling. Services have been cut here. We don't have a Parks and Rec department. Police has been cut. There's a lot of things the city needs that will directly benefit all the vulnerable people that you all care about so much. I've heard some folks tonight suggesting that we require developers to include affordable housing units in International Village. I would love that. It's great. It's called inclusionary zoning, and it's a tool that is used in some states. Unfortunately, it's illegal in Michigan. You can't do it. So I just want to come out and say I really do support this project. I think that it's a wonderful thing for our city. I think that we really need it, and I also have heard that that's part of this E5 program. They have to create permanent jobs, and that given the number of investors that will be involved in this deal, we're talking 400 permanent jobs. Our folks need jobs too. They're talking about building 2 hotels on the site. These are jobs that will provide low-skilled workers with work. Our residents need work, and this would provide some of that. Thank you.
And then James Arnoldi.
There's a story of a guy and...
Can you state your name and address for the record for us?
Oh, sure. Deva Madhavadas. I live at 108 North Adams Street. Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to share. Thank you guys for sticking around this late. So, there's a story of a guy, and he has a pretty friend who is also a girl, but there's no romance between them. Is it? How's that?
Speak up. A little louder.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll speak louder. Back to the guy who has the pretty girl who's a friend. And there's no romance between them. Of course he would like some romance. And so one day out of desperation he asks, would there be some romance for $1 million? She says, yeah, sure. And then he asks, could there be some romance for $1? And she says, what do you think I am, a prostitute? And he says, we've already established what you are, now we're just talking price. So I'm not sure what ever gave anyone the impression that we weren't working within a capitalist system. Or that there wouldn't be something based on motive and selfish desire, because that's the paradigm that you're living inside of. If you want to live inside a different paradigm, we're offering that over at the Harmony Collective. We picked next to the bus station for a reason. We knew that we'd be able to help a lot of people that otherwise don't have it in our own small way. It's going to be winter soon, and we become the de facto warming station. So as long as they're not interrupted while we're praying, we're happy to have them sit in with us and get something warm to drink and be in a warm space. That being said, I'm very happy to see so many people that care about caring here. At the same time, City Council is going to be faced with the very practical decision of going with this conundrum of the Water Street property sitting as an embarrassment to them for more months and years going forward, or have the opportunity to bring a potential, a chance. And so I think Mr. Foster was probably the best speaker. I almost felt embarrassed to say anything after him, because I felt what he said was very concise and authoritative and helpful. I just wanted to suggest to the council that perhaps owing to those 400 jobs that will be coming, because that's the one thing I noted too with these EB5s, they have to provide stable jobs for local people. It would be a wonderful precedent to set if the council could establish that there be a living wage tied into all of those jobs, and that any development forward that comes to Ypsilanti, which is natural when such a large, substantial investment comes, also have such a living wage tied into it. And in that way, we'll create some level of a sustainable and growing contribution to, again, those low-skilled workers and less well-paid members of the community. Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. My name is Kira Berman. I live at 1122 Pearl Street. I've lived in Ypsilanti for 13 years now, raised my daughter here. I love this town, and I'm really happy to see so many people who care about affordable housing here tonight. Affordable housing is a real problem in Ypsilanti, and I think City Council has been working prudently on that issue, but I think they also need to hear how much of a problem it is from you. So I'm happy to see so many people out here tonight. I want to echo a couple of things that, very briefly, that I heard tonight that I thought were very important. One is that people are suffering and that City Council can do more. I think I agree with that. I think also that the people who are here tonight who care about this can help council, as you're helping tonight, help them plan and collaborate with them and do more, make this city more affordable. The other thing that I heard tonight that I think I agree with is that this problem is bigger than this development. This is a systemic problem and it needs systemic solutions. I would love to see affordable housing as part of this development. I would love to see the public keep the riverfront. I would love to see fair wage jobs. I don't know how much of a possibility that is, and I would hate to see this city lose the opportunity for growth and development because they don't have the time to do that negotiation for a project where it might not be appropriate. I'd like to see Water Street developed. We've been waiting over 20 years. I think we should try to negotiate, but if we can, I think we should move forward with this development and look for systemic solutions to the affordability problem in our city, and that's going to take all of us. Thank you.
We have on the pre-sign-up list, so be ready to raise your hand, and I'll call you after this person.
I thank you for the chance to speak. So I've been hearing a lot of the fear, the pain of gentrification. It's a real issue, and it is a struggle when you look at potentially being priced out of the home you've known you've lived in. And that's something that we do need to fight against. We need to do what we can to keep people in their homes. To keep people in their homes, we do need to fight for that. And it's that fear, that pain, often leads to a xenophobia, a fear of somebody else coming in. We've got property out there that it's not housing, it's not a home for anybody right now. And this property has been an albatross for the city for well over 10 to almost 20 years. And we have a group out there looking to development. We may need to look at it a little more, but that doesn't mean we don't want to lose that chance. Now, I do encourage that the city look at what can be done to help people to be able to stay in their homes, to keep rent control, to make sure there are affordable housing. And I've heard that there are things being done towards that. But I don't think we should turn around and become a city that is afraid of having others come into us, this xenophobic reaction of, we don't want these rich people from other countries coming. We are a working and poor community. We are also a college community. And we bring college students in from all over the world. And there's a view right now that America is not a welcoming country anymore, that it is not welcoming to the folks of other countries. And this is part of that. We can't take our pain and our fear over real issues, gentrification, and then turn around and say others aren't welcome here. And again, it's already been stated, a lot of great speakers have already said why right now what we have, people moving in there and building a facility in there, that's not gentrification. We're not moving anybody out there, and no one's going to make affordable housing there. So if we can get people in there who add to our community and bring something new to our community, at the same time looking at other affordable housing opportunities, then I think that's the win-win for our community, and that keeps that diversity that makes Ypsi what it is. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Frankie Konetsky. I am at 160 North Washington, Ypsilanti, Michigan, 48197. I've been a resident of Ypsilanti for 3 years on the charts, but 4 years added to that when I was couch surfing between Van Buren Couch to Ypsilanti and Ann Arbor. I'm a community college graduate who had to drop out because of economic problems of going to Eastern and not being smart enough for a scholarship. And I urge you to vote no against this, and especially give more time for people that are more marginalized to be informed about what is going on in Ypsilanti regarding bringing people in of higher economic status from other countries. I wanted to say that a personal story that my complicity in how I spread this, how I spread the event page made me think of a lot of the stuff related to access and why we need better access for people that are of lower incomes and more marginalized status to get here. I was inviting people on Facebook. And I was going through my feed, seeing who might want to come that could come. And I came to this person that I will call Wednesday because I couldn't think of anything with the Addams Family before this. And my debate for at least like more than 2 hours on and off in my head of whether I should invite them. When I didn't invite them for 2 hours, I was thinking that the ability for them to participate and how that would be useful or not. And honestly, I think almost everybody's participation is useful, and that's why 2 hours later, after kind of turmoiling over why I was being such an asshole, invited them. Internal bias is a really big thing that affects how politics work, and if you're not willing to listen and try to see like where you're coming from, we can't communicate. But I just wanted to come up and urge the council to do better, and to if you can't listen, at least keep asking why and trying to communicate, because accessibility and letting people know that stuff is happening is like the only way you can create change that is actually going to be sustainable. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Jaleesa Rosario. I'm 211 Ferris Street. I just moved back here after being gone for 5 years. I went to the Bay Area. I just want to point out one thing. I am the first non-white passing POC woman to be on this podium. No offense to Amber. Two, I represent one of the lowest statistically able groups in the world. But I also happen to be a gentrifier. Let's talk about that. I can literally say that living in the Bay Area, I've made more money than most of you guys from exploiting people that look like me to having heritage and wealth passed down. And so I want to talk about how important it is to recognize what will happen if this international village went into place without talking with community members. I'm literally almost half of you guys' worst enemy in this room because every day I walk past you and you won't acknowledge that I exist. Which is okay because I work in tech. I can actually take all of your jobs if I wanted to. If you want to talk about how gentrification works when you bring other people in without organizing sustainability for the people who are already represented. Another thing that you guys don't know is I am from here. I'm internationally born, but I lived in Ann Arbor, went to Pioneer, went to WCC, went to Eastern, left and came back because I heard so many people in the Bay Area talking about how with their company being sold, they can come to Ypsilanti and Detroit and buy up the area. So I came back because of that. So I want you guys to understand that this is a conversation that is happening throughout the entire country about this space, and we need to not be so hasty in putting this into play. There should be more thought in organizing with the people that are here. That includes millennials like me, that also includes low-income millennials, that also includes low-income seniors, single parents, people who are not able to afford a job. These are the people that we need to be listening to, because again, whether or not you want to acknowledge it, yeah, I know Black Lives Matter because I have a great one, and I do the most that I can in my community, and like I said, whether or not this gets passed or we get to have some more time, you guys aren't paying attention to the after effects. I don't know if you guys know about the Chinese development in Africa. I don't think how many of you have ever been to China. I have. I would definitely look into their tactics as far as business is concerned. There's a lot of things that we just need to do more research on, and that's it.
Hi, can you hear me? No? Is this better? Okay. So, my name is Heather Charles, and I live at 160 North Washington Street. I was born in the township, and I've been a resident of Ypsilanti for 5 years. I'm only 2 weeks into my urban and regional planning master's class, but we've already had a discussion about the prevalence of these polluted fields in southeast Michigan. And one of the things that we talked about is a lot of cities opted not to purchase those big parcels of land. Now they don't have control over what developments go in or what developers have purchased the land and what they're going to do there. Cities have an interest in buying them. Ypsilanti bought it because it gives us the chance to decide what goes in there, to have input into what goes in there. So many of the cities around southeast Detroit have lost control of those brownfields, and now there are big polluters who are going in who are not really cleaning up the site. We have a chance to slow down and really make a decision about what goes in here. We shouldn't rush because we're so lucky that we have the opportunity to have this input. So many cities in the southeast area don't, and we should just take advantage of that. Thanks.
Can you hear me okay? How about now?
Ooh, yeah.
No buzzing? Hi, I'm Andrew Maniotis. I'm an Ypsilanti resident and homeowner for about 15 years. I live at 911 Grand Street. I also proudly serve as a professor at Eastern Michigan University. I've taught scores of Chinese students over the years, and I'm proud of the results we've had back and forth. It's been a good exchange. The end of the school year, I was part of a delegation that met with visiting academics to survey the school, and we were told this was going to be a big boost to our enrollment. So of course I volunteered to do the presentation, and it went very cordially. And as these things go, there's always questions about transfers and credits and all that thing. A week later, MLive reports about the International Village, which which I asked my supervisor, did you know about this? And the reply was, huh? So it felt rushed, and that was the end of this last school year. And I've seen so many details that seem very unknown or rushed. That includes the deadline with the EB5. That I agree that Water Street is something that needs to be dealt with. It is like a bad credit card that is accumulating more debt. This way, without knowing all the details and everything it entails, to me feels like taking out a bad loan to pay off the bad credit card. We don't know what's in it. The up to 3,000 students is the number I've heard for the International Village. And as someone in the school where enrollment is down, I think that's great. I will be on the forefront teaching them if that happens. I also wonder, 3,000, what happens to student housing? They will lose income. What happens to the other apartments and renters in the town? They will lose potential income. And I also speak as one who has studied abroad, who has taught international students, and who has taken students to other countries. In my opinion, the best interest of those students is to immerse themselves in the local culture. I don't tell my students to stay in Little America when we're in another country. That you will learn more from the local customs, food, how people put their jacket on or part their hair different from you, that you should be part of the culture and they would welcome us. And lastly, I'd look at how Detroit handled Whole Foods, that there were a lot of details that were ironed out beforehand. Everything about local farmers to if any merchants were being sold, that their name would be on the label. And it took a very long time. It wasn't rushed. And I have great respect for this council. I think this is a bad deal. I urge you to vote no.
Steven Silverberg, and I live at 1455 Roosevelt, and I am an official old white guy. So from that perspective, and you made a really good point. You made a good point. To address your point, I'm a photographer. I have a photographic business in Ipsy, and I have been poor, and I have been a landlord. And I also shoot with a group of photographers outside in Detroit. And there are 45, 50, 60 of us, 20 being active. I'm the oldest guy and the only white guy in the group. So I've been around. I lived in LA, lived in New York City, lived here, lived there. I've been poor. And I'm even concerned now about affordable housing from a personal standpoint, which is all I really can speak to. I'm on Social Security, I'm 76 years old, I'm running a photo business and licensed in the city of Ypsilanti. Thank you, city of Ypsilanti. And everything is pretty good, I'm working out, I'm running, I'm doing stuff, and last week I was in the hospital for 3 days because I was bleeding internally and came out of nowhere. What happens if I suddenly can't do my photo business? Where am I going to go? I can't find an apartment that is less than my home. If I can't take care of my home and I have to go someplace, where am I going? I was looking at Cross Street Village. Well, that got to be a problem. As to Water Street, there are some really good points being made on both sides. Here's my personal take on it. No developer, we're tying affordable housing to Water Street. There are two separate issues here. Water Street is Water Street, affordable housing is affordable housing. You're not going to get affordable housing in Water Street, and you're not going to get Water Street anyplace else. No developer is going to come in to do the kind of work with the cost and scope of work in a Water Street project and then put affordable housing in there because they're not going to get their money back. You're not going to see it. Gentrification is not necessarily a bad thing, if gentrification kind of finds its own level, I'm gentrification because I have a photographic business that wasn't there before, and all of a sudden I'm offering services within the city. You made a lot of money in gentrification. Not a bad thing. And loving it. And lucky. But it can be done. So when people have a fear of gentrification, let's offer, my wife came up in Itzy and she told me, I lost her 4 years ago and I'm still here. She told me about going down to downtown and buying shoes there, getting jewelry there, and going to restaurants there, and going to the movies there, and all of those things that happened. We can do that, but we've got to get Water Street off the books first. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate your time.
My name's Amanda Gayton. I am a building owner at 56 North Bureau. I had to follow the millage. I had to vote yes for our millage to pay for Water Street. Find something else. Don't fall into this trap. We're already paying for it. Why do you have to do this? Are we going to get a reduction in our taxes? Will that millage go away? These are questions that I have as a taxpayer, as a building owner, as a shop owner. This millage has passed. We don't need this to happen right here, right now. Slow down, take your time, find something else. Thank you.
Hi, so I'll be very brief. Speaking as a child of Chinese immigrants. Hi, my name is Amory Zhao Corvo. I live at 1309 Arella Boulevard, 48103. So speaking as a child of Chinese Taiwanese immigrants who comes from a Chinese Taiwanese immigrant family, I am staunchly against the International Village development because I recognize this issue as not about diversity or xenophobia, but as one of gentrification. Stop touting diversity when ICE is deporting Latinx immigrants and when the city is evicting black residents from the same areas Chinese immigrants are being ushered into. The diversity card is a transparent and frankly pretty underhanded lie. It's not about diversity, it's about wealth. So City Council, please don't.
My name is Joy, and I live at 1939 Roosevelt. I live in College Heights, and I think we're moving way too fast on this. And I say that because I like to go out jogging in my neighborhood, which I love, and I own a house, and I'm very happy to live here. But as I stop and talk to people, almost none of the people I run into has heard of this. And this is, I think, a serious concern. If we're going to do this, our community needs to know about it. Now, there's a lot of people here tonight, but that's still not very many people in the scheme of things. So I don't know why you guys can't send out something to everybody in Ypsilanti, city of Ypsilanti, that people know about this. Why am I running into tons of people who've never heard about it? And why is it taking so long to have these meetings? I don't know who, I didn't catch who voted for having this meeting, but I thank you. And whoever did vote for it, I really don't thank you. This is crazy that we have not had a discussion about this more until like the day before you're going to be heading off to vote on this or talk about it, or I don't even know what you're doing tomorrow. But it seems to me like it's almost a done deal. And I'm pretty unhappy that there are so many people who don't even know about it yet. We need to talk about it. We need to, as a community, be together on this, and we need to have more of these meetings. Please slow down. Don't rush into this and make a hasty decision. This is craziness, I think, is how fast it's moving. And the other thing is I want to say to you also that I am busy buying a house in Namibia. That's in Africa. And if you want to know how, that's a country that has had a huge
Tell the truth, Joy. Tell the
truth. In the last 10 years. Big article about that in the New York Times and what that has done to that country and what that country has felt with the prejudice that they have felt with the Chinese. So I just think we need to really think about what we're getting ourselves into. And I'm not saying there's not positives about this. There are. I'd like to get that from around our neck, sure. But we really need to be careful and look at the long-term consequences of what we're doing to our community.
Can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me? Okay, my name's Amy Summer.